Welcome to Daily Life Connection as we continue to explore who God is, how He works, and what difference that makes in our lives. Today I want to talk to us about the God of the odd. I was going to say the odd God, but that may sound somewhat disrespectful. I certainly don't mean it that way. And where I'm coming from is, a few stories, but there's lots and lots of stories, of course. One comes to me. You remember when Israel was going to take Jericho and going into the Promised Land, and Joshua sends out a couple of spies, a couple of godly men, and where do they go? To a brothel. They go to a brothel where Rahab is, who is a prostitute, and they stay with her overnight. Amazing! How odd is that? God sends these two men to spy out the land, and they stay at a brothel. And God seems not only okay with that, but He actually saves her life. And actually, she becomes, how odd is this? She becomes one of the ancestors of Christ. Amazing. Just amazing. How odd is that? Well, then in the New Testament, a blind man comes to Jesus, and how does Jesus heal him? Jesus spits. He spits in the dust and makes this gooey. That's odd to me. And he puts that paste on the man's eyes and tells him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And the man's healed. That's a little odd. Don't you think? Well, even when you look around creation, like for me, the duckbill platypus in Australia always makes me laugh. What a crazy looking animal that is. Pretty odd looking animal. There are so many odd things in creation. And God seems to take delight in all of that. He seems to delight in not being odd, but in things that are odd. God isn't predictable always in how He does things. As we talked about the other day, He's predictably good in them, but He isn't predictable in our way of thinking. We think, oh God, I think you should be more dignified. Jesus, it would be more dignified if you didn't spit in the mud and smear mud on a guy's. Another time He spit and touched a guy's tongue with it, like gross. It might just be a little more dignified if you didn't do it that way, Jesus. But He doesn't care. Odd things don't bother God. Now here's where I'm going with this today. That's good news when you and I look in the mirror, because boy, we can be odd creatures sometimes, can't we? We can just be odd creatures sometimes. Sometimes we'll do something or say something and go, where'd that come from? It's just plain odd. But you know what? That doesn't offend God. There's the point today. God is not offended by odd things or odd people or odd circumstance. In fact, God seems to take delight in oddities. So, on our Christian journey, sometimes some odd things may seem to happen. Sometimes we'll be praying or maybe in worship and we'll go, that's odd. That's okay. That's okay. He's the God of the odd. Sometimes when you and I feel like the odd man out, sometimes when you and I look in the mirror and we go, how could God ever use me? I'm an odd stick. Or when people let us know we're outside the norms, we're a little odd. Well, rejoice, because He's the God of the odd. Well, let's rejoice in that today and thank Him for it. God bless. We'll talk again tomorrow.